pack your stuff. We're moving your family out so my pregnant daughter can move in, Mom announced. I've been paying the mortgage on their house for 6 years, $4,100/month. They had no idea it was actually in my name since 2019. When the sheriff showed up with eviction papers for them 3 weeks later, the first thing my mother said wasn't hello. It was, pack your stuff. We're moving your family out so Megan can move in before the baby comes. She said it from my own kitchen, leaning against the counter like she was announcing a change in dinner plans. Not trying to erase me, my wife Nora, and our son Eli from the place we'd been living in for 6 years. It was 7:18 p.m., I know, because I looked at the microwave clock twice, like maybe numbers would make the sentence less stupid. Nora had one hand on Eli's shoulder. He was 8, barefoot, still in his soccer shorts, holding a grilled cheese triangle he'd stopped eating mid-bite. He didn't say anything. He just watched my face. My mouth went dry so fast it felt like I'd swallowed sawdust. Say that again, I said. Mom folded her arms. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Calvin. My sister Megan stood near the dining table with both hands on her stomach. 7 months pregnant, her husband Trent was behind her with that smug, neutral look men wear when they want credit for not speaking. Dad stayed by the hallway, silent already. That was his favorite role. He loved a strong opinion as long as it came out of someone else's mouth first. Mom nodded toward the stairs. You and Nora need to start packing tonight. Megan needs the extra room, and it's not fair to make a pregnant woman wait. I actually laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes your brain rejects reality like bad food. Not fair. I repeated. Calvin, Nora said softly. That was for me, not them. A warning. Stay calm. I stayed calm. This is our house, I said. Mom gave me that tight little smile she used on bank tellers and nurses and anyone she thought needed managing. No, sweetheart. This is our house. You've been staying here because we let you. My brain started counting on its own. People in the room. 6. Open boxes by the stairs. 3. Suitcases near the entryway. 2. They'd already brought things. They'd already decided. Eli put his sandwich down on the coffee table without taking another bite. Small thing. Quiet thing. The kind kids do when they know the room has turned dangerous. Megan jumped in with the reasonable voice. We're not saying leave with nothing, she said. Just take what's yours and be adults about it. I looked at her. What exactly do you think is mine? She shrugged. Your clothes. Your tools, maybe. Basic stuff. Nora's eyes narrowed. Basic stuff? Mom waved a hand toward the kitchen like she was being generous. Don't start itemizing every spoon and lamp. Be practical. Then she really got going. The coffee maker, you're not taking that. We use it every day. The grill on the patio? Absolutely not. Trent needs it, and Megan can't cook outside once the baby comes. My beard trimmer from the upstairs bathroom drawer. My actual beard trimmer. Mom stared at me and said, Calvin, where do you think you're taking that? No, that stays here. I blinked at her. My trimmer. It's part of the bathroom setup, she said. Trent actually snorted. Then Dad finally contributed. Take your underwear and whatever you bought recently, he said. Everything else stays. Don't be petty. I looked at him for a long second. Did you just tell me my only things here are my underwear? He didn't answer. Mom did. Well, not only, she said, but let's be honest. A lot of what's here is family property now. You've all used it. Megan needs it more. Nora made a noise under her breath. Not loud, just disbelief. Eli looked at me and asked very quietly, Do I have to leave my room? My mother answered before I could. It won't be your room anymore, honey. It'll be for the baby. Honey. That word nearly did it. I could feel the cold in my hands. That weird cold that comes when your body knows something has shifted permanently. I set my keys down on the counter very carefully. Okay, I said. Mom looked relieved too soon. Good, thank you. I nodded once. I'm going to need everyone to say clearly in front of Nora what exactly you think is happening here. Mom frowned. Oh, for heaven's sake. No, I said. Say it. Megan touched her stomach like she was the injured party. We're moving in. You're moving out. Mom and Dad said, it's time. And my stuff? Mom smiled again. Take your clothes, take your towels, take your underwear. Don't start grabbing things we need more. I took out my phone. Dad saw it. What are you doing? Making sure I heard you right. Mom's face changed immediately. Don't record family. I didn't ask permission. I hit record. Then, calm as I've ever been in my life, I said, one more time. Who owns this house? Mom looked me dead in the eye and said, your father and I do. I didn't scream. I didn't throw them out. I opened the Notes app and wrote one line. Call Mason in the morning. File occupancy action. No more talking. I'm Calvin. I was 36 then. I live outside Knoxville, Tennessee. I build custom epoxy river tables and conference pieces for restaurants, law offices, rich couples with open concept kitchens, and the occasional guy who thinks black walnut and blue resin will fix his personality. It pays well when it pays well. It pays terribly when clients drag their feet. You learn to live in waves. 6 years earlier, when my shop finally started making real money, my parents were in trouble. That was the phrase. Family language. Always soft first, ugly later. Dad had refinanced too many times. Mom had run up cards and called it bridging. Their mortgage was behind. The house was headed for foreclosure. They sat at my workbench one Sunday afternoon and talked to me like I was the last calm person on a sinking boat. Just help us smooth this over, Mom said. Smooth. That word in my family means, let us do something insane, and don't embarrass us by naming it. I was 29. Nora was pregnant with Eli. We were renting a 2-bedroom apartment over a dentist office and saving for our own place. I should have said no. I did not say no. Dad said it would only be for a while. Mom said, family helps family. Megan said, you're the only one doing well right now. That one mattered because it was true. Megan had always been the fragile one in the family mythology. Fragile, special, in transition, misunderstood, on the verge of something, which is a nice way of saying she was 30 and still expected everyone else to absorb the cost of her life. I thought I was saving my parents' home. What I actually did was buy it. My lawyer, Mason, begged me to structure it cleanly if I was going to do it at all. He said, if you want to help them, fine, but either gift them money and walk away or buy the property properly through an LLC and lease it back. Do not do the handshake version of this. So I didn't do the handshake version. In September 2019, my LLC bought the house. Clean title, recorded deed, mortgage in my company's name. My down payment, my loan. My obligation, my risk. The arrangement was simple on paper. I would let Mom and Dad stay. Nora and I would move into the finished side of the house with Eli after he was born, because it was big enough and cheaper than paying rent somewhere else, while I covered the mortgage anyway. Mom and Dad would contribute when they could. Spoiler, they rarely could. The payment was $4,100 a month, with taxes and insurance rolled in. I paid it every month. For 6 years. Sometimes Dad gave me $500 and called it doing what he could. Sometimes Mom bought groceries for the house and acted like that settled accounts. Most months, it was me, my shop, my hands, my back, my weekends, my money. And because I'm apparently a slow learner, I let them keep pretending it was still their house, not publicly. Legally, I was protected. But socially, inside the family system, I let the lie breathe. I used to tell myself it kept the peace. It didn't. It fed the machine. There were signs early. The first time was over the garage bay. I needed space for clamp racks and slab storage. Dad told his friends I was using his garage for my hobby. My hobby. I was paying the mortgage with that hobby. When I corrected him, gently, Mom pulled me aside and said, don't humiliate your father in front of people. That was incident 1. Incident 2 was the nursery. When Nora was 8 months pregnant, we cleaned out the room across from ours for Eli. Mom watched us paint it and said, don't make it too permanent. We don't know how long you'll be here. I remember Nora freezing with a paint roller in her hand. I said, we live here. Mom smiled. For now. That was the first time Nora asked me, after they went to bed, why did they talk like they're doing us a favor? I didn't have a good answer then. I had one later. Because I let them. Incident 3 was smaller, but it stuck with me. Eli was 4. He had this habit of lining up his toy trucks on the hearth in exact color order: red, blue, yellow, green. One night, Megan came over with a boyfriend and his teenage daughter. The girl grabbed 2 trucks and tossed them into her purse as a joke. Eli went completely silent, not crying, not yelling. Just that still, stunned silence little kids get when something isn't safe but they don't know the rule they broke. I made her give them back. Mom told me afterward I had made it weird over toys. That sentence stayed with me because it explained the family perfectly. They could take. I could not react. That was the rule. The resource lever changed over time, but it was always there. Housing first, then childcare, then reputation. Mom loved telling people this was their family home. Dad loved being pitied for letting us stay while Calvin built his business. Megan loved dropping by and saying stuff like, "Must be nice having built-in support." Built-in support, meaning my wife cooked for 8 people on holidays in a house I paid for. Meaning I replaced the HVAC when it died, and Dad told neighbors he had a guy. Meaning Nora took Eli to school while Mom slept in, and still got told she didn't contribute enough to the home. I swallowed a lot of it. That part is on me. I told myself I was buying time, building equity, keeping Eli near his grandparents, waiting until the loan got better, waiting until Megan stabilized, waiting until Dad's health improved, waiting until Mom calmed down. I thought it was temporary. It wasn't. By the time 2025 rolled around, the market had shifted, my business was solid, and I had enough cash flow to buy a separate place if I wanted. But now there was history, routine, school district, workshop access, taxes that made staying make sense. Then Megan got pregnant, and suddenly everything sharpened. Mom started saying things like, "A baby changes priorities." Dad started measuring rooms out loud. Trent started acting like the patio was his. Then came the little rehearsals. Once the baby's here, this side of the house will make more sense for them. Eli is old enough to share. You two can scale down. The family language changed, but the meaning didn't. Make it smooth, be flexible. Don't make a scene. Family helps. You're overreacting. It's just temporary. Nora heard every bit of it. So did Eli. And kids learn to shrink faster than adults admit. One Sunday, Eli asked if he was allowed to keep his Lego sets when the baby took his room. That's when something in me started to turn. Not enough to act yet. Enough to begin seeing. After that dinner table announcement, they switched to pressure mode. Wave 1 was calls and guilt. Mom texted me at 6:41 the next morning. "You don't need to drag legal nonsense into a family adjustment." Dad sent, "Be a man and don't stress your pregnant sister out." Megan sent a 3-paragraph message about how I was weaponizing paperwork and how a nursery matters more than a woodshop aesthetic. A woodshop aesthetic. My shop, by the way, paid the mortgage on the house she was trying to take over. I didn't answer any of them. I called Mason. He was my age, dry as drywall, and worth every dollar I'd ever paid him. I said, "I need the deed, the lease history, payment records, and next steps to remove occupants if they refuse to vacate." He didn't do the fake shocked thing. He just said, "I wondered when this day would come." By noon, I had a folder deed in my LLC's name from 2019, mortgage statements, 6 years of payment history, my business account, my personal transfers, the exact $4,100 leaving every month, property tax records, insurance, messages from Mom thanking me for covering the house again, messages from Dad promising to catch up next month. They were beautiful receipts. Ugly story. Beautiful receipts. That evening, I came home from the shop and found Megan and Trent in Eli's room with a tape measure. Eli was in the hallway holding his stuffed fox and staring through the door. I asked one question. "Why are you in my son's room?" Trent turned and said, "Relax. We're just planning." I looked at Megan. "Did I say yes to this?" She rolled her eyes. "Calvin, the world doesn't stop because you're being difficult." Eli tugged my sleeve. "Dad?" I crouched. "Go sit with Mom in the kitchen." He didn't move right away. That hurt more than the rest of it. He didn't trust the room. I stood back up and said, "Get out." Megan put a hand on her stomach immediately. "Wow. No," I said. Not wow, out. They left, but not before Trent muttered, "This is why nobody wants to deal with you." That same week, Wave 2 started. Actual practical harm. I came downstairs one Friday morning, and the kitchen espresso machine was gone. Not the drip coffee maker Mom claimed. My actual stainless steel espresso setup that Nora bought me for my 35th birthday. Mom said, "We moved it upstairs. Megan needs easier access." I said, "Bring it back." She said, "Don't be selfish." The patio grill had a note on it in Trent's handwriting. "For baby shower prep, do not move." My beard trimmer disappeared from the bathroom again and showed up in the guest bath drawer. Nora found 2 bins missing from the garage, my clamp case and my finishing supplies. Trent had moved them because he needed space for the crib boxes. Then came the boxes. That Saturday, while I was delivering a commissioned walnut dining table to Chattanooga, Nora called me. Her voice was controlled, which is how I knew it was bad. "They're packing us," she said. I pulled over at a gas station. "What?" "Your mother, Megan, and Trent. They're putting our things in boxes. They told Eli to decide which toys matter, because half of this stuff is staying." I could feel my teeth clench. "What do you mean, staying?" She told me the kitchen items are family property now. The coffee maker, the grill, half the linens, the vacuum. Your tools, she says, are shared utility. My tools? Not all, the ones they need more. Then Nora went quiet for one beat and said, "Calvin, your mother just held up your trimmer and said, 'Where do you think you're taking this?' No, this is ours. Your stuff here is basically your clothes and your underwear. Grab those and go." I sat in that gas station lot, staring at my windshield and seeing red in a very calm way. Not loud rage, clear rage. I drove back. When I walked in, there were open boxes everywhere. Mom had labeled them in thick black marker like she was running an estate sale. Calvin Clothes, Nora Clothes, Ellie Toys Misk. Misk. That one got me. My son's school projects were in Misk. Nora's grandmother's mixing bowl was in Misk. My shop apron with resin burns all over it was in Misk. I walked into the kitchen. Mom was wrapping mugs. I asked one concrete question. "Show me exactly what you think I'm allowed to take." She didn't even look embarrassed. "Your clothes," she said. "Basic bathroom items. Nora's personal things. Eli's mattress, maybe. We're not stripping the house." I looked at the counter. "No coffee equipment? We need it. No grill? Trent uses it. No trimmer?" She looked at me like I was stupid. "Calvin, are you listening? You can't take half the house because you're in your feelings." Dad came in from outside and said, "Take your underwear and leave the rest. You're dragging this out." I asked another concrete question. "Where are the clamp cases from my shop?" Trent said, "Garage shelf? We borrowed them." "Why?" He shrugged. "Needed them." "For what?" "Does it matter?" Yes, it mattered. Everything mattered now. Eli came down the stairs with his backpack on. It was Saturday. He had packed himself. "Dad," he asked quietly, "are they taking my room today?" Mom turned toward him with that fake soft voice again. "Nobody's taking anything, sweetheart. We're just making room for the baby." That was the moment. That exact moment. I stopped arguing. I started documenting. I photographed every box. I photographed the missing items list Nora had started. Coffee maker, espresso machine, patio grill, beard trimmer, tool cases, extension cords, air compressor accessories, Eli's desk lamp, Nora's stand mixer attachments, our bedding. The TV from our room Mom said was staying with the house. I took screenshots of texts. "Mom, Megan needs these things more right now." "Dad, stop counting every object like a landlord." "Megan, it's weird how territorial you're being in your parents' house." "Trent, if you cared about family, you'd let the pregnant woman nest." Mason told me to keep going. He said, "Do not threaten. Do not argue. Do not explain ownership socially. We have ownership legally." Then I asked one more concrete question, this time to Dad in front of all of them. "When exactly are you refusing to leave property titled to my company?" Dad laughed. That was useful too, because he said, "When you grow up and stop playing owner." I saved that one in my head. 3 days later, Mason filed. Formal notice first, then unlawful detainer, then service. 3 weeks from the dinner table performance, a hearing date was set. 3 weeks after that first, pack your stuff, I had a signed order. That's when the sheriff got scheduled. I did not tell them ahead of time. Not because I wanted drama, because warning people like that just gives them time to break more things. The sheriff came on a Thursday at 9:14 a.m. I know because I was in the shop sanding a black walnut slab when my phone buzzed. Motion alert from the front camera. Then Mason texted, "Deputy is there. Stay available." I opened the live feed. Mom answered the door in a cardigan and slippers. Annoyed first, smiling second. She always smiled at authority for the first 10 seconds. The deputy introduced himself. Another officer stood behind him. Civil standby. Service and enforcement. I drove home anyway. By the time I pulled into the driveway, Dad was outside shouting, not at me, at the deputy. "This is my house." The deputy didn't raise his voice. He just held the paperwork and said, "Sir, title and court order identify the legal owner. You need to gather your personal belongings and vacate as directed." That sentence was clean enough to frame. Megan was on the porch crying. Trent was pacing with his phone out, calling people who could do absolutely nothing. Nora stood inside by the entry table, with Eli behind her. She had one hand on his shoulder again. Same as the first night. Same exact posture. Only this time, she wasn't bracing. She was done. Mom saw me and actually had the nerve to look wounded. "You did this?" I looked at her. "Yes." Dad pointed at me like the deputy needed help identifying the bad guy. "I paid for this house for years." The deputy looked at the file and said, "Payment records entered into court indicate otherwise." That line hit him hard enough that he went quiet for 2 whole seconds. Then Mom switched tactics. "Calvin," she said, stepping toward me, "don't do this to your pregnant sister." I said one sentence. "You told me to take my underwear and leave everything else." She froze. Good. Because the deputy heard it. Megan immediately jumped in. "That is not what happened." Nora, bless her, didn't even look at her when she said, "I have it on video." That changed the air. Fast. Trent tried one last macho move. He stepped toward the grill on the patio and said, "That stays." I said, "No, it doesn't." The deputy looked at him and said, "Sir, personal property disputes can be handled through counsel. Right now, you are leaving." There it was, the audience, the official system. Facts in daylight. Mom started crying for real then, but only in the face-pinched, dry-eyed way she cried when consequences arrived. Dad demanded my keys be returned to him. I almost laughed. Megan said she couldn't possibly move under this kind of stress. Trent called me a psychopath. The deputy kept reading from the order like a machine. At one point, he looked over the inventory dispute notes and asked, "Is there specific property being withheld from the owner-occupant side of the house?" I handed him the printed list. Coffee equipment, patio grill, personal grooming device, tool storage, bedding, kitchen appliances, shop accessories. He actually paused on personal grooming device and looked at me. I said, "Beard trimmer." He nodded once like he'd seen dumber things, which I'm sure he had. The most devastating line of the day didn't come from me. It came from Eli. He stood in the hallway, looked at Megan carrying one of his bins, and said, "That's not yours. Just that. Small, flat, true." Nobody answered him. They had 3 hours to clear out what the order allowed. Mason had told me to protect the house immediately after possession was restored. So while they loaded their cars, I did the irreversible steps. Locksmith at 1 p.m. garage keypad reset at 1:12. Alarm codes changed at 1:17. Front and rear smart locks rekeyed. Cameras reassigned from shared family logins. Mailbox updated. Access removed. I also walked room to room with my own printed list. The espresso machine came back downstairs. The coffee maker too. The grill stayed. My trimmer was in the guest bathroom under a stack of washcloths, which is still one of the weirdest small insults anybody has ever committed against me. 2 clamp cases were in Trent's trunk. The deputy made him hand them over. Half our kitchen towels were missing. I let them go. Some fights are laundry. Some are principle. By 2:46 p.m., the driveway was empty, except for one fallen baby shower ribbon blowing across the concrete. Mom stood by her car before getting in and said, "You'll regret humiliating your family like this." I answered with the only sentence that mattered. Access to me is not a family right. Then I went inside and locked the door. The first peaceful thing was stupidly small. That night, I made coffee in my own kitchen with my own machine, and nobody acted like I was stealing from them. Nora laughed when I said that out loud, but it was the tired laugh of someone whose nervous system had been living on a hot wire for too long. Eli sat at the counter doing math homework. Halfway through, he looked up and asked, "So my room is still mine?" "Yes," I said. He nodded once and went back to his worksheet like I'd just restored gravity. A week later, I moved more shop equipment into the garage because suddenly I had the space I'd been paying for all along. I built Eli the desk I'd been meaning to make him for 2 years. White oak top, steel legs, little hidden drawer under the right side for his important papers, which currently meant Pokemon cards and one petrified granola bar. Nora repainted the downstairs bathroom because she said she needed one room in a house that didn't feel haunted by other people's opinions. The house got quiet in layers. No commentary from the hallway. No fake generosity. No one touched our things anymore and called it family mead. A month later, I hosted Thanksgiving without my parents for the first time. Just us, Nora's brother and his wife, 2 neighbors, and a friend from the shop. Eli ran through the kitchen laughing so hard, he almost slipped on the rug. He paused like he expected someone to scold him, and when nobody did, he laughed even harder. That sound made the whole thing worth it. Then they tried one last time. Mom texted on December 3rd, "I baked your favorite pie. Can we talk like adults?" No apology. Dad left a voicemail about letting emotions cool. Megan sent a baby photo and called it a misunderstanding. Through Mason, I gave one response: do not come to the property without written permission. Future communication must be in writing and limited to practical matters. They called it cold. I called it a boundary. My mother wanted me to take my underwear and leave. Instead, they left. I'm not available for that.